So in recent past, there's a huge popularity in A2 milk. So it's just a milk which lacks beta casein protein, or in other words, it can be the milk from a pure cow without any genetic modification. So in a more Indian term, it is the milk of a desi cow. So there have been a lot of forefront spiritual leaders who have been promoting this. So I just wanted to know your take on what A2 milk is all about and why it is same as the other milk.
You are asking me that the milk of the desi cow, the desi guy, that is being promoted a lot in the religious circles and even in the downtown cultural circles. You are talking specifically about India?
Specific to India.
About India. Okay. It's quite funny actually, you see. We worship the cow and we torture it no end. And people talk about desi gai ka doodh, desi gai ka ghee. They do not even know what they are doing to the creature they call as mother. Is this the kind of behavior you mete out to your mother? Milk her, put a noose round her neck, leash her to a pole or something, or to a nail, and then keep milking her, artificially inseminate her. And then leave her to her fate once she becomes old and infertile and dry. In the name of worshipping the cow, we have done great injustice to the cow. Again, people need to be presented with facts and figures. People need to know that the dairy industry and the meat industry are inseparable. People think, and there are millions of such people in India, people think of meat eating as some kind of a lowly activity. It is even a taboo to many. But they think of milk, drinking milk, as something holy. So the fellow will say, I don't even touch eggs. I survive only on milk. As if milk is any less cruel a product than eggs or meat. The direct and symbiotic relationship between the milk industry, milk products industry, and the meat industry is not at all clear to people. Not at all. There will be people who will be prepared to lay down their lives if they are asked to eat meat. They'll say, we are prepared to get killed, but we will not take meat. I respect that sentiment. But these are the very same people who have no scruples, no qualms about gulping down liters after liters of milk and lassi and kheer and ghee and paneer and cheese. I'm not blaming them. I'm just saying they are not informed. They do not know where all the meat comes from. They do not even know that India is a big exporter, close to being the largest exporter of meat. Where is that meat coming from? People do not bother to know what happens to the cow once it stops yielding milk. And I do not mean to say that the only injustice meted out to the cow is the one after it becomes old. Even when the cow is young, people need to go and check out what her life cycle is like. And for the sake of somebody who can't survive without cattle milk, it's quite stupid, you know. There is no animal in the entire universe that needs to have milk of any creature other than its own mother. Man is the only one who wants to drink cow milk, buffalo milk, goat milk, yak milk, camel milk. Camel milk is for the camel offspring. Is it not? Buffalo's milk is for the calf. So what kind of ingredients is the buffalo milk likely to have? The ones that are suitable only to the buffalo calf. Remember, those ingredients are suitable only to the calf, the little calf. What will those ingredients do? They will quickly turn the little calf into a full grown bull. Is that what you want to become? A bull with a huge body and very little brains? That's what milk will do to you. Milk has nothing for you. The milk that a human being needs is adequately provided only by his or her mother. And once the mother stops breastfeeding, that is it. Now the human child needs no more milk. But it's such an obsession. And if you think deeply about it, it's a very, very perverse obsession. Trying to have the milk of a female of another species. There is nothing holy at all about selectively using only the milk of the desi cow. Nothing at all. It is as bad as going for any other kind of milk, and going for any kind of milk is as bad as meat consumption. It has to be squarely understood. I know what I'm saying would shock many, even offend many, but it's all right. Facts need to be demonstrated. Somebody needs to speak things out.
So my next question is so there are a lot of religious people when we meet them during outreaches. So irrespective of the religion, actually. So few people say us God has put animals here to eat. So few people say few people say it's been written all over our holy books. Our Lord used to consume milk himself. So this kind of questions are another quite common among the religious crowd. So which I do feel is irrelevant at this particular time, but still it is being well written and well established as per their understanding in the respective religious books. So what is your take, and why should we not quote everything from such religious books in this particular era?
All this is not because of man's respect for religion. People who make such claims are inherently full of great disrespect for religion. They use religion just to pursue their own limited, petty, ugly self-interest, and they are vile enough to mask their self-interest with the holy name of religion. When you say that your prophets or avatars have been shown as consuming milk, then why do you selectively talk only of their milk consumption? The prophets, the gurus, the avatars have also been shown to be doing a lot of other things. Why don't you emulate them in totality then? Sri Krishna would lift the Govardhan Parbat on his little finger. Why don't you emulate that as well? But when it would come to that, then you would not talk. Sri Krishna was the one from whom the holy Bhagavad Gita comes. Do you have any relationship with the Bhagavad Gita? No. About the Bhagavad Gita, you would be silent. About milk consumption, you are very loud, very vociferous. You say, no, I want to drink milk. Those were things of his times. He was born in the clan of milkmen. So just as he was not wearing shirts and pants at that time, similarly he was consuming milk. There is nothing timeless, there is nothing eternal about milk consumption. It was a thing of that particular era, that particular age. Why don't you wear the same dress that Sri Krishna used to wear? Why don't you ride the same vehicles that Sri Krishna used to ride? Why don't you say that all cars should be abolished because Sri Krishna was not riding cars? You have to understand that the message of the Holy Gita is eternal, applicable yesterday, applicable today, and would always be useful in the future. But not everything is timeless. Are you getting it? Similarly, people talk of Jesus or Prophet Muhammad, that they have been depicted as having meat. A few things, I repeat, belong to times and conditions of the particular centuries and the particular places where the holy men operated. They would obviously speak the language of their times, eat the food of their times, wear the dresses of their times, use the transportation of their times. These are not significant things. What is significant is their central message of understanding, realization, love and compassion. Instead of focusing on their central message of realization and compassion, we, for our own ugly self-interests, start using even the holiest of men to just give pleasure to ourselves. People will say, oh, but Jesus was a meat eater. Anything else that you remember about Jesus? But you remember this much, that he used to have meat, so that entitles me as well to have meat. And nothing else do you remember from his life, right? So don't you see that it is not out of respect for Jesus, but out of your unending greed and lack of self-control and total lack of love and compassion that you do what you do, and you are unnecessarily taking the name of the great and holy men.
So Guruji, it is factual whatever you said, but why does most of the spiritual and religious leaders shy away from spreading this message?
If somebody doesn't want to speak the truth, then you know who that person is. Because if you are in the business of pandering to the masses, pleasing people, then you cannot afford to displease them, let alone offend them. A shopkeeper is surely not in the business of telling the truth. The shopkeeper's business is to sell his goods. And that's what most gurus of today are. They have to sell their goods. Many of them have online stores as well, actually, literally. So when that's what you want to do, how can you afford to antagonize a big chunk of population? And you would never do that if you are especially looking to target the Western audience as a guru. Because the Western world is all meat-eating world. Meat-eating, but full of dollars. Meat dollars. Meaty dollars. Very meaty dollars. And gurus love to fly abroad and collect those dollars. How will you tell the meaty dollar that meat is bad? So they will either keep mum on it or would even indirectly support it. Someone would say, meat eating is not all right, but you can have, some chicken you can have, some fish you can have. What kind of lowly advice is this? Shameful. So many of them actually use milk in their religious practices. And not a little bit of milk, but very, very vulgar demonstration of consumption of thousands of liters of milk. So they'll take milk and put it in a pond and say this pond is all full of milk. Or they'll encourage even their followers to bring lakhs of liters of milk on some holy day and pour it over a deity. And they'll say, there is a great pious thing happening in front of your eyes. See, so much milk is being poured over the deity. These are not gurus at all. So the question itself is misplaced. When you say, why are gurus not talking of the meat industry? Why are gurus not talking of... they cannot. Just as a politician cannot talk against the people. A politician can talk against another politician, correct? But can a politician talk against the electorate? He cannot do that. All politicians abuse each other. But does any of them ever raise a finger at the public? They cannot do that. Their entire business is based on pleasing people. So same with the gurus.
So my next question is, a lot of social justice movements in the past. So take example of our freedom struggle. So a lot of them involved a non-violent civil disobedience, say satyagraha. So should vegan movement should be following the footsteps of having more of a non-violent form of civil disobedience?
What exactly do you mean by that?
I want to know your personal take on what what civil disobedience.
What do you mean by civil disobedience? What do you visualize?
Civil disobedience is breaking a certain part of the law. Say, a very simple example can be trespassing into a private property and exposing an animal being cruelly killed, or exposing the industry.
I think it's your moral and spiritual responsibility to do that. And in the age of sting operations, I don't know how you can even call it illegal. And if it is illegal, have the resources, an entire battery of lawyers to defend you. Fine.
So my next question is on climate change. So we all know that we have been in a terrible state of climate change, where we have been witnessing mass extinctions, high temperatures, floods, which are being very frequent. But to the core of it, animal agriculture industry is one of the main sources. Say, but the population which is dependent on this particular industry is a rural poor background. So if we have to convince them to switch to a more greener side, so how would we as a movement will be able to execute it?
You are talking of the supply side. You are saying you want to convince the supply side to stop supplying when there still is a massive demand. You will not succeed. Action has to be taken firstly on the demand side and only then on the supply side. You see, a few things need to be understood. Why did this entire huge spike and spike after spike in meat consumption come first after all? Because it became fashionable and there was a lot of propaganda around it, correct? People just followed. You too will need to propagate. You too will need to publicize. When I say you, I do not mean you as separate from me. I am with you. There have to be cultural steps. There have to be legal steps. There has to be action in the financial domain. And there has to be information. The meat eater must not be able to hold a place of pride in popular culture. You need to have celebrities coming out and endorsing veganism, at least vegetarianism. You need to show the good guy in popular media, in the movies, as a vegan guy. It is very important. I'm talking of practical steps. You need to have songs. You need to penetrate the mind of the audience through popular culture. And on the harder side, you have to realize that every meat eater is actually being subsidized, greatly subsidized by every non-meat eater. This is injustice. This is direct stealing of money, pinching of money from the pocket of the vegetarian or the vegan to subsidize the meat eater. When you eat meat, when you eat chicken, you are actually not paying for the environmental damage that your plate of meat has caused. You are not paying for the climate change. You are not paying for the biodiversity depletion. You are not paying for the loss of tropical jungles, green cover, nothing. None of that has been factored into the price of your tandoori chicken. But the cost is enormous. So somebody is bearing that cost. Who is bearing that cost?
Whole population.
Whole population, meaning just to help you have your chicken, Everybody else is paying the price. So if you are paying rupees 200 or 300 for your plate of chicken, its actual price should be maybe 800 or 1000. And it is gross injustice that the thing is being offered to you as a subsidy. So there has to be taxation. There has to be clear, commensurate, just taxation. Two things I talked of: culture and fiscal measures. Then there has to be education. People have to know. People have to know what milk is. People have to know what meat is. People have to know the entire cycle. People talk so much about the right to information, and everybody is so curious these days. People want to gossip. People want to say, no, we want to know everything. First of all, don't you want to know what is going into your body? First of all, don't you want to know what is going into your body? So that has to be made known. Thirdly, it has to be made known that agriculture as such is not the absolutely holy profession it is made out to be. Very, very people know, very, very few people know that probably around 2/3 of all agriculture, rather 3/4 of all agriculture, is just to support meat eating. Now you'll wonder, what am I saying? You'll wonder, right? People think of farmers as some kind of pursuers of a most noble profession. They say, you should be a farmer. Especially in India. Everybody is talking about poor farmers and this and that. And everybody is talking of upholding farming. And I support that. Any person who is in need needs to be supported. But the field of farming, the entire industry of farming, the entire sector of agriculture, it has to be seen in perspective. We must know the facts. Truth has to be exposed. Out of every 4 kilograms of grain that comes out from the farmer's field, 3 kilograms goes towards feeding animals so that they can be slaughtered and the meat eaters can have their meat. That's the reality of agriculture. On one hand, we talk so much about preserving forests, and if forests go, then the habitat of so many species just disappears. You need not physically eliminate those species, you just need to cut the forests down. And those species are gone. Now, why are the forests disappearing at such a huge rate? Do you know, even as we are talking, how many acres of forest has been cleared off in the last 1 hour itself? Can you even imagine? Now go find out. You'll be startled. Even as we are discussing this, at an unimaginable pace, trees are being felled. Unimaginable pace. Why are those trees being felled? So that there can be more agriculture. That agriculture goes towards feeding the ever increasing population, because we cannot live without kids. Further, we cannot live without our chicken wings and chicken burgers and mutton this and beef that. We do not even know that to get 1 kilogram of chicken or mutton or beef, you require probably 20, 30 or 40 kilograms of grains. So most of the grains that is being raised in the farmers' fields is for the purposes of meat. That is something people must know. You cannot just blindly keep on talking of agriculture as something so holy and pious and natural. Are you getting it? Then the kids. Reach out to them. It has to be a holy war. You have to, pardon me my language, invade schools. It's a battle for the mind. The kid must grow up knowing fully well that it's monstrous to kill an animal to eat it. Are you getting it? And that would require a change in the entire value system of the kid. Veganism cannot succeed if you just keep talking of animals. You keep saying, oh, it is bad to look at animals as a commodity, it is bad to exploit animals. If man is exploiting man, why will man refrain from exploiting animals? So veganism has to be holistic, comprehensive. You may not like it to hear it this way, but veganism has to be basically a spiritual movement. Veganism has to be a movement of compassion. And when compassion comes, you will not be compassionate towards merely the animals. When compassion rises in you, then you will be compassionate towards everything, everybody, and yourself. First of all, you will cease to be cruel towards yourself, which most people are. So veganism needs to broaden its scope. You say, oh, it's bad to treat animals that way, this way. One should not use leather. But what if somebody has been conditioned to draw pleasure from tormenting the other? And there are many such people. There are cuisines around the world where animals are eaten alive. You like to have an octopus, a living octopus, on your plate, and then you take the octopus and you take it in. There are people. You have to address the entire value system. You have to ask man, who are you? What is it that you want? And how will you get it? By slaughtering somebody else. And what if it is proven that that which you really want is being hindered, impeded, obstructed by your food habits? And your food habits are not merely your food habits. Your food habit is your life habit. The way you eat is the way you live. If you are horrible with your food, then surely your life too is horrible. This has to be drawn home. So, a lot of work needs to be done. For veganism to succeed, you would actually require a new man. It's a big battle and it's worth fighting. It's worth fighting.
Guruji, next question is, we are organizing an animal rights match, so coming weekend on 10th of November. So as I just wanted to ask you, like, why should the masses, so whether vegan or not, why should they join in this movement? So you have any word for them?
We have already spoken enough of that. I mean, if you are not joining the vegan movement, I don't know how you are eligible to call yourself educated. I don't know how you are eligible to call yourself even human.
Yeah. So Guruji, that's all with my questions.
Street activism is wonderful. My advice is, do not forget that you have to be educators first. It is a battle for man's mind. Not to capture it, but to cleanse it. It is not just the future of planet. The future of entire mankind depends on the success of this vegan movement. If veganism fails, man is gone. But unfortunately, man will be the last to go. Before man goes, he would have put everything else in the graveyard or reduced everything else to ashes. Having presided over the entire demolition, having cremated everybody else, he will be the last to depart, and probably pretty soon so. So let's work.